Discover the incredible man she rejected for $2, a heartwarming journey of life-changing love. In the quaint little town of Maplewood, every face told a story, and every story was shared over steaming cups of coffee at the local diner. For Sarah, a 32-year-old single mother, the place was both a refuge and a prison. Balancing two jobs, one at the diner and another at the grocery store, she was caught in a whirlpool of bills and responsibilities, dreams flickering like the weak candlelight on her table. Longing for a life that seemed just out of reach, hope began to wane. One bustling evening, as the racket of clattering plates and cheerful chatter enveloped her, Sarah caught sight of him. Jake, rugged, sincere, with hands shaped by toil and heart molded by kindness. He approached her with a spark in his eyes that ignited a flicker of curiosity. "Hey, Sarah. There's a community event this weekend, just $2. Want to join?" She scoffed, her pride bubbling up. A low-cost gathering seemed beneath her, beneath their shared blue-collar existence. "Thanks, but no thanks," she said dismissively, the moment passing like a vapor. How quickly life can change. A week later, an accident at the grocery store sent Sarah spiraling into chaos. As she sat at home, staring at bills that seemed to multiply like weeds, helplessness clawed at her insides. Her stubborn nature meant accepting help felt like a foreign concept. She wanted to face this alone, away from the judgmental gazes of the townsfolk who had always rallied for each other. She isolated herself, proud but utterly vulnerable. In the meantime, Jake poured himself into the community center, teaching kids, organizing events, and bringing warmth to their lives while Sarah silently battled her own demons. She began hearing whispers of him, the man she had brushed aside, now a beacon of hope in Maplewood. It sent chills down her spine. As she lay awake, her children's worried faces haunted her thoughts. The situation hadn't just affected her. The shadow of desperation loomed larger, yet her heart remained closed, encased in pride. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Then came the pivotal moment. Sarah learned about a fundraiser Jake was organizing that could save her job. A storm of emotions surged: resentment for her own judgments, realization of Jake's goodness. Could she now swallow her pride and ask for his help? It felt like standing at the edge of a cliff, peering over a world of possibilities and dangers. Townsfolk stood firmly behind her, champions of her struggle, but she remained torn: vulnerability or isolation. At the fundraiser, the warmth of the community enveloped her, but it was Jake's smile, bright yet distant, that pulled her in. As she started to approach him, her heart raced. What if he was disappointed in her? What if she had burned too many bridges? Would he even want to hear her out? The room filled with unasked questions that left hanging in the air, whispering for resolution. Sarah found herself at a crossroads. Would she dare confront her past choices and embrace the community she had shunned? Or would she remain captive to her fears? The tension thickened, and a part of her knew this journey of forgiveness, love, and support was only just beginning. The moment hung in the air, thick with tension and unspoken words. Each footstep Sarah took toward Jake felt like an eternity, her heart pounding in her chest louder than the lively chatter around her. She felt exposed, like a flower in bloom before an indifferent crowd. Memories of her past decisions curled around her: missed chances, moments of pride, and her ill-chosen dismissiveness. Jake stood there, laughing with a group of children, his eyes sparkling with encouragement. He was infectious, bringing smiles to those around him, but Sarah's thoughts danced a dark rhythm, echoing doubts. What if he doesn't want to see me? What if I'm not worthy of his kindness? Taking a deep breath, she pushed through the crowd. With every step, each question morphed into determination. She had to try. A wave of unexpected shame washed over her as she recalled telling him no. "Hey, Sarah." Jake turned, his smile faltering for just a second as their eyes met. Sarah could see the flicker of recognition in his gaze slowly replaced with concern. "Are you okay?" he asked, setting aside the joy he shared just moments earlier. She stumbled over her words as a wave of vulnerability enveloped her. "I heard about the fundraiser. I didn't mean to push, back then." The admission slipped out, raw and honest. She felt exposed, like a window flung open to the cold air of judgment. His expression softened, and instead of backing away, he stepped closer, creating a bubble of safety just between them. "I've missed you at the community events." I didn't come because the words hung in her throat. How could she explain the pride that held her captive? "I guess I just thought I could manage on my own." Jake nodded, a knowing understanding washing over his features. "We all need help sometimes, Sarah. It doesn't make you weak." Her heart ached at the kindness in his voice, pushing against the walls she had built around herself. "I'm really struggling right now. I just don't know where to turn." The admission felt like a release, a breath of fresh air in a stifling room. A reassuring smile crossed his face, and he leaned in just slightly. "Then let us tackle this together. I'm planning an outreach program, and I could use someone like you. The community wants to come together, help one another. You're part of that, Sarah." She looked into his eyes, the sincerity of his words washing over her. "Really? You'd want me?" "Of course. You're not alone in this. None of us are." Hope flickered in her heart, a timid flame fighting against the darkness of her previous choices. It was a bridge to her future that suddenly felt attainable. But just then, a loud cheer erupted from a nearby table, drawing their attention. Sarah's gaze shifted, the crowd's energy palpable and infectious, but within the cheer, she noticed a group of women exchanging gossip, eyeing her curiously. Doubts crept back in, reminding her of the judgment she feared. "Sarah?" Jake's voice broke through her spiraling thoughts. "You coming?" Taking a deep breath, she knew the answer meant more than just that moment. Would she step into the light of opportunity or retreat once more into the shadows of her fears? As she deliberated, a rush of emotion swelled in her chest. This was her chance. "Yes," she said, the word firm and clear. It felt like a promise, not just to Jake, but to herself. But standing at that turning point, she couldn't shake the lingering thoughts about the whispers in the crowd, their judgment, and what they might think. Just as she took that step forward, something flickered in Jake's expression, a shadow of uncertainty clouding his bright eyes. "Are you ready for this?" he asked, and she could sense the weight of that question. Could she truly embrace this chance? The air felt electric, her heart thumping wildly. The journey ahead was still unclear, filled with unknowns, and the fear of pride creeping back loomed as she faced him. And in that very moment, she realized the hardest part was still ahead. Would she have the strength to trust in herself and in Jake? The laughter from the nearby table faded into a distant hum as Sarah stood there, her decision hanging like a delicate thread. Jake's warm gaze anchored her, but the whispers of doubt wrapped around her like a heavy shawl. She squeezed her eyes shut for just a moment, trying to summon the strength she'd been lacking. "Yeah, I'm ready," she finally managed, her voice steady despite the turmoil beneath. She stepped forward, and with that single movement, she felt the weight of her past begin to shift. "Let us go," Jake said, his smile encouraging a spark of excitement within her. They joined the crowd, and the lively atmosphere washed over her, a tide of hope mingling with trepidation. It felt strange, yet thrilling, to be part of something bigger than her. Women with warm smiles greeted her, children ran past laughing, and laughter filled the air. She had forgotten, for a moment, what it felt like to simply belong. The outreach program was soon the center of discussion, and Sarah found herself immersed in the excitement. With each story shared, her fears began to ebb. She recalled how challenging it had been to express her emotions, how withdrawal had felt easier than confrontation. But now, standing beside Jake, she saw his sincerity as a bridge that extended to her, inviting her to step forward into her truth. "Sarah, are you ready?" Jake's voice broke her reverie as he turned to her, pointing toward a small group forming at the edge of the park. "We'll be brainstorming ideas. I want everyone's voice to matter." As they walked toward the group, she felt a warmth spread in her chest. Jake's belief in community mirrored her own buried desire for connection. It was as though his enthusiasm could melt away the years of isolation. He had already taken the first step forward. Now it was time for her to meet him there. "Hey everyone. This is Sarah." Jake called out, and her cheeks flushed with warmth. A woman stepped forward with a bright smile, extending her hand. "Welcome, Sarah. We've been waiting for you to join us. We could use your insights." After shaking hands and greeting others, Sarah felt a little more alive. The warmth swelled, peeling away layers of her doubt. With every shared idea, her voice resonated, building on their dreams for the community. There were children playing, laughter echoing, and the anticipation of change crackling in the air. But as moments of connection blossomed, a shadow threaded through her happiness. The whispering women she'd seen earlier loomed in her mind like ghosts. Their judgment felt as stifling as ever. Was she truly part of this? What if they never accepted her? Sarah shifted her gaze to Jake, who was deep in conversation with another organizer. She watched him, illuminated by passion, as he animatedly discussed plans for the future. His kindness grounded her in ways she couldn't have predicted. Still, uncertainty gnawed at her gut. Would she be able to uphold the promise she had made to herself to thrive? As they crafted their plans, Jake met her eyes, sensing her internal struggle. "You all right?" He cocked his head, a silent inquiry that urged her to open up. "Yeah, just wondering if I can really do this," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "You're already doing it," he reassured, placing a hand gently on her shoulder. "Just take it one step at a time, and don't be afraid of the noise around you." His encouragement washed over her like a balm, but the specter of doubt continued to linger. She knew the next few weeks would put her resolve to the test, and with it came the burden of uncertainty. Suddenly, a loud cheer erupted from the crowd, breaking her train of thought. Jake's smile widened, and he turned back toward Sarah, excitement written all over his face. "Let's get back to it. We're ready to make a difference." As energy surged once more through the group, she took a deep breath, squared her shoulders, and prepared to step back into the vortex of connection. But as she did, a small voice in her head reminded her of the price she might have to pay for vulnerability. What if this time, she failed? The tension tightened in her chest, each cheer around her amplifying the stakes of her choice. Would she falter when faced with the truth, or rise when her community needed her most? The intensity of the moment held her breath captive. Just beyond the cheering crowd, Sarah stood at the edge of her own potential, ready to embrace the unknown, and it terrified her. But it also sparked something deep within. She gripped that feeling, determined to keep moving forward, knowing Jake stood beside her. As the crowd's excitement swelled, she sensed it was the first of many moments that would challenge her. The real question lingered, though: would she have the courage to share her heart and redefine who she was meant to be? Just as the last cheer faded, Sarah found herself enraptured by a wave of voices that pulsed through the park. Energy crackled in the air, lifting her spirits. She glanced around at the group, each face a kaleidoscope of hope, reflecting a shared dream that thrived despite their pasts. "Okay, everyone." Jake clapped his hands loudly, gathering attention. "Let's brainstorm. I want to hear your ideas on how we can make the greatest impact." A rush of hands shot up like flowers reaching for sunlight. Sarah took a step back, still hesitant to join the tide of voices. The vibrant energy buzzed around her, yet doubt gripped her heart. Would her thoughts hold any weight in such a lively mix? "Sarah," Jake urged, a warm smile urging her on. "Don't be shy. What are you thinking? She hesitated for a moment, caught between the desire to be part of this community and the nagging fear of judgment. Then, she recalled the warmth of his encouragement. What about creating a mentorship program for the kids? The words slipped out before she could second-guess herself. Jake's eyes lit up. That's brilliant! He exclaimed, and the group perked up, listening intently. Mentorship could provide a real sense of guidance. Who better to inspire them than people from their own neighborhoods? She added, starting to feel the spark of connection that had eluded her for so long. The group buzzed with excitement. Ideas flowed like water from a burst dam, and Sarah's heart swelled as she shared her thoughts, feeding into the flow. Moments later, Matt, an enthusiastic volunteer, suggested organizing a community art project. Art can heal, he said passionately. It'll bring us together. As each idea built upon the last, Sarah felt the ghosts of her self-doubt dissipate. She was participating, her voice mattered, and more importantly, she felt alive. The other volunteers nodded, and she sensed a bond tying them all. Her heart raced, and joy bubbled up to the surface. But then, shadows seeped back in as she spotted the whispering women again. Two of them stood at the edges of the group, exchanging glances, their faces twisted with skepticism. Sarah's breath caught. Would they mock her? Would they see through her veneer and expose the fragile person she truly felt like inside? She turned to Jake, who was now animatedly discussing logistics in the background. His voice was a soothing balm against her fears, yet it left her questioning if she could truly belong here. I'm still scared, she confessed quietly, the warmth of earlier fading slightly. What if I'm not good enough? Sarah, he said, his face serious but kind as he moved closer to her. We all feel scared at times. Vulnerability is strength, not weakness. Look around you. They're not here to judge but to lift each other up. Trust this moment. His words stitched together the fabric of her resolve once more. She pushed back the tendrils of fear, straightened her spine, and took a deep breath. Maybe this was her chance to reweave her story. The crowd began to break up, and as the brainstorming session turned into smaller discussions, Sarah felt a nudge of confidence bubbling beneath the surface. She joined a group focusing on youth engagement, her voice growing steadier with each comment shared. But just as she began to feel comfortable, the whispers behind her surged back into her mind. What if having the courage to engage would end badly? Her heart raced again. The sun dipped lower, casting a golden hue over the park. Inspiration filled her and faltered with every heartbeat. Would the challenge of vulnerability finally pay off, or would those ghostly doubts creep back in when she least expected it? Before she could answer, a little boy with bright eyes and a crooked smile approached her. Miss Sarah. Will you help me paint a giant mural? I want to make it for our neighborhood. His innocent enthusiasm sent a shock through her. Here was an opportunity, a moment where she could show up, embrace this life fully, and help others do the same. The question lingered in her mind, was she bold enough to take that leap? Or would she pull away like she had always done before? The boy looked at her with hope, waiting for her answer. Sarah held her breath, realizing that the choice wouldn't just define her day, but perhaps her future. And just as a thrill shot through her, she smiled back, ready to explore a story that was beginning to unfold right before her eyes. Would she embrace this chance to reshape not only her life but the lives of others? Sarah knelt down to meet the boy's eager gaze. Every fiber of her being urged her to say yes, yet doubt clawed at her heart once more. A mural? That sounds amazing. But as she paused, eyes flickering to the two whispering women nearby. I've never really painted anything big before. The boy didn't seem to register her uncertainty. We can do it together. You can help me pick the colors. It'll be the best mural ever. His excitement was contagious, and she felt a flicker of determination ripple through her soul. Okay, let us do it. She exclaimed, a smile spreading across her face. The boy squealed in delight, jumping up and down with glee. It was as if a little piece of her had ignited in that moment, maybe embracing this opportunity wouldn't lead to failure after all. The sun continued its descent, wrapping the park in a warm glow. As Sarah joined the boy, who introduced himself as Leo, she felt the energy of the group shift around her. Others noticed her enthusiasm and began to gather, curious about their plan. The whispers faded into the background, overshadowed by laughing voices and eager sketches of what the mural could look like. Jake approached them, eyes sparkling with pride. "I love the idea of a mural. It'll not only beautify the neighborhood but also show everyone that we're a community that cares." Sarah's heart swelled as she listened to the support surrounding her. She felt visible, wanted, as if she belonged here. Together, they began brainstorming themes for the mural. "How about something that represents our strength? Or celebrating our culture?" suggested another volunteer, Jen. "This could bring everyone together." Matt added enthusiastically, his eyes bright with inspiration. Sarah felt the ideas wash over her like a soothing balm. With Leo beside her, she picked up some chalk and began to sketch rough outlines on a large piece of cardboard that would serve as their planning canvas. The laughter echoed around her, each voice knitting tighter the bonds between them. They discussed colors, shapes, and symbols, every suggestion building momentum. Yet, the moment of joy was interrupted as she caught another glimpse of the two women. They stood further away, arms crossed, their frowns deepening as they watched. A tightness formed in her chest. What if they're right? She thought, the old fears creeping back in. What if I can't do this? "Sarah, are you okay?" Leo asked, noticing her sudden stillness. She crouched down, meeting his little bright eyes. "I'm just thinking about what people might say." "Who cares what they say?" he declared, his voice firm for such a small person. "We're making something beautiful. And it will be for everyone." His innocent conviction was like a refreshing breeze, cutting through her concerns. The mural wouldn't just be her project, it would be theirs. With a steadying breath, she picked up the chalk again, her hand moving confidently as she started to draw. Line after line, color after color, the murmur of voices filled the air, laughter mingling with the sweet smell of summer. As the first outlines of their mural took shape, Sarah felt a warmth enveloping her spirit. Each stroke seemed to release her of the weight she'd been carrying. The park transformed around them. Her hesitations began to blend into excitement, blending seamlessly with the call of creativity and belonging. She couldn't ignore it anymore. This was her moment, her chance to paint over the shadows of doubt that had lingered for so long. But just as the colors danced across the cardboard, a voice pierced through the revelry. "You really think painting a childish mural will change anything?" One of the women called out, her tone dripping with sarcasm. The words cut through the joy, drawing collective attention. Sarah felt her heart race, the initial exhilaration diminishing under the weight of doubt again. Would she allow their negativity to cloud this opportunity? The choice loomed ahead, heavy with potential. As she faced the audience, Sarah knew that this moment would define her. Would she stand strong for what she believed in? Or would she fold under pressure? The decision hung in the air, charged with emotion, ready to shape not just her fate, but the future of the community she was now part of. Would she stand tall against negativity and embrace the joy of creation? Sarah took a deep breath, her heart pounding in her chest. The sarcastic voice echoed in her mind, and she glanced at Leo, whose innocent smile remained unwavering. It was as if he was an anchor in a turbulent sea, reminding her why she had agreed to take this leap in the first place. "Everyone has to start somewhere," she said firmly, trying to muster her confidence. "Art is about expression, and this mural is our way of showing what we care about." The two women looked at each other, their expressions a mix of disbelief and annoyance. One of them, the taller one with short, cropped hair, crossed her arms even tighter. "You think you can just slap some paint on a wall and that changes anything? You think that fixes problems?" A hush fell over the crowd. Sarah felt the air grow thick with tension, drawing all attention to her. Time seemed to stretch as she calculated her response. She could feel the weight of expectancy, the glances of the others urging her to respond with something meaningful. "This mural is not just about paint," she said finally, her voice rising with steadiness. "It's about community. It's about coming together, lifting each other up, and sharing who we are. It's South about making this place brighter." A small cheer erupted from the crowd, the kind of unity that every community craves. Feeling emboldened, Sarah continued, "Art can inspire change, even if it seems small at first. It gives people hope, and maybe, just maybe, it sparks conversations that lead to something bigger." The two women seemed caught off guard by her passion, their skepticism faltering for just a second. Sarah could see their wheels turning, the lines on their foreheads softening as they started to rethink their position. Leo, still by her side, piped up, "And we'll make it together. Everyone can join in. We'll show them that we care." That innocence, his no strings attached belief in the goodness of people collapsed any remaining barriers. The crowd erupted in laughter and applause. The initial joy began to swell again, washing over Sarah as she realized they weren't just painting, they were building something real. Glancing at the two women again, she saw a hint of doubt lingering in their eyes. Perhaps they weren't as immune to the wave of enthusiasm as they first appeared. "Look, I know some of you think this is just a silly project," Sarah addressed the murmuring crowd. "But maybe it's more than that. Maybe it's the start of a conversation, a way to unite instead of divide." The mood shifted, and she saw flickers of interest in some onlookers. A shy woman at the back stepped forward, nodding appreciatively, "I'd love to help. Could we include local stories too?" "Exactly," Sarah exclaimed, her smile growing broader. "Let us incorporate what makes us unique. We're all part of this community, and our stories matter." As the group buzzed with renewed energy, Sarah felt the thrill of possibility surging through her. Perhaps this was about more than just the mural, it was about the connections they'd forge along the way. She grasped the chalk tighter, her imagination running wild with ideas. Then she caught sight of one of the two women giving a slight nod, her arms uncrossing just a fraction. It was a small opening, but it glimmered with potential. "Let us get to work," Sarah shouted, and the crowd roared in agreement, stepping closer to the cardboard planning canvas. Colors began to flourish, ideas buzzed in the air, and Sarah felt the sparks of magic return. But just as the first optimistic strokes filled the canvas, the other woman, her voice rippling with surprising strength, called out, "If this is so important, how are you going to keep it going? What if no one shows up again?" A hush fell over Sarah once more. Here it was, the challenge she hadn't considered. The past few moments had sparked a flame, but she needed a plan to keep it burning. How could she ensure that this would be lasting, that the engagement would grow beyond one mural? The weight of the question pressed against her. Could she rally the community, keep them engaged, and turn this vibrant moment into a movement? The answer was still shrouded in uncertainty. Determined, Sarah met the gaze of the woman who questioned her. "How about we find out together?" she offered, her voice steady despite the shaking within. This wasn't just about art anymore. It was about creating a legacy. As eyes turned expectantly towards her, Sarah felt a sense of purpose surging like never before. How could she build on this momentum? What would it take to ensure the community wouldn't just stop here? The questions loomed like shadows over the park, the possibilities felt limitless and yet daunting. She was ready, but was the community? Would they embrace this journey with her, transforming that initial spark into a brilliant bonfire of change? Sarah took another deep breath, her resolve sharpening. "Let us make this city our canvas," she called out, her voice ringing with newfound energy. "What stories do we want to tell?" Hands shot up from the crowd, voices overlapping in the excitement. Someone shouted about the old bakery down the street, another mentioned the community center filled with laughter and memories. Each voice built upon the last, weaving a tapestry of the past and present that connected them all. As they brainstormed, Sarah felt the adrenaline coursing through her veins. The woman who had questioned her stood quietly to the side, observing how the crowd rallied and reacted to every idea tossed into the air. Sarah noticed her slowly nodding as if the gears were turning. She felt a small knot of hope untangling in her chest. "Remember the summer festival?" Someone chimed in. "The way everyone came together to celebrate?" "Yes. The murals hung on every fence." Leo added, his enthusiasm contagious. "We can do that again. Only this time, we'll include everyone's stories." "Exactly," Sarah said, her heart swelling as she pointed toward the vibrant imagination spinning tales that could be captured on their mural. "This can be our symbol of unity, something we all contributed to." However, doubt still flickered in the back of her mind. She realized that capturing these ideas on the large wall wouldn't be enough, she needed to create an ongoing dialogue within the community. How could she bring them back together to continue sharing and connecting? Let us plan meetings, drop-in sessions where anyone can contribute their ideas. We can hold art workshops, community days, Sarah suggested, her thoughts flowing as if the possibilities were endless. The crowd started buzzing again, and the initial urgency from earlier was replaced by hope. The taller woman, who had been reticent, stepped forward. I think that sounds amazing," she admitted, her face softening. "But what if people lose interest once the mural is up? It can't just be a one-time thing. Then let us make it an event." Sarah responded instantly, her excitement contagious. "Let us unveil the mural with a celebration. Food trucks, music, performances. We can turn it into an annual festival." The idea hung in the air like a colorful balloon. Eyes widened in excitement, and chatter erupted again, voices plotting out the details that could transform the park into a full-blown festival ground. Sarah could hardly believe how quickly they had turned the tide, transforming skepticism into enthusiasm. Behind her, Leo's giggles rang out as he happily drew shapes on the planning canvas. He had become a part of this community dream, and she was filled with warmth seeing him so radiant. But amidst the cheers, that familiar weight returned. It simmered just beneath the surface, the pressure of expectations. Sarah felt it swirl with the excitement around her. What if her grand plans fell flat? What if their enthusiasm dwindled? Focusing back on the gathering, she raised her hands to quiet the crowd. "We can't do this alone. We need everyone's input, everyone's heart in this. It's not just about the mural, it's about creating something that lasts." As faces turned towards her, the mix of uncertainty and hope was palpable. They had begun a movement, but how would she ensure it thrived? Could they find a way to keep everyone engaged, to reignite that initial spark every time they gathered? Looking around the crowd, she saw determination mirrored in their eyes. "What if we formed a community council, like a team that meets regularly? We'll make plans together, keep the energy flowing." A ripple of agreement moved through the crowd, and Sarah could feel a spark igniting within her. Her heart raced with excitement and anticipation. Yet just as they began to dive into those ideas, Leo turned towards her. "But what do we do if someone doesn't show up again, Sarah? What if they forget?" His voice, still innocent yet grave, paused the whirlwind of hope for just a moment. A thought hit her: what if they had to create personal connections that went beyond the mural? "In our lives, we learn and grow, but we can't forget what unites us," she said, her voice steady, even as uncertainty weighed her down. "Maybe every person needs to feel needed, valued. Maybe that's why we paint." The crowd listened, captivated, and Sarah felt their collective heartbeat. Each brushstroke could be a pledge to come together and support one another. Let us create deeper ties, no matter how busy life gets. Can we do that? She felt nervousness grip her again as she finished. Would they say yes? Would they support whatever came next? As she searched the faces in the crowd, one thought echoed in her mind: the mural was just the beginning. She needed to find ways to keep igniting that light within her community. How would she turn this moment into a lasting legacy that pulsed with life? With anticipation hanging in the air, Sarah stood ready to find out. What other challenges lay ahead? The sun dipped lower, casting golden rays over the gathering as they buzzed with ideas. Sarah could feel the electricity crackling in the air. It invigorated her, yet uncertainty still clung to her, refracting the light of the moment. Could they really keep this passion alive? She looked around, her eyes landing on Leo, who was now animatedly showing his sketches to friends. His laughter floated above the crowd, drawing smiles from even the most doubtful. "Okay, everyone," she shouted, trying to harness their energy. "Let us break into smaller groups to brainstorm specifics for our mural and festival. Pick a theme, a neighborhood story, whatever speaks to you." As the crowd split into smaller circles, the chatter rose. Sarah moved closer to the woman who had originally raised her doubts, now fully immersed in conversing with others. This was a promising sign. Plucking up her courage, Sarah approached. "I'm glad to see you here. What ideas are you chasing?" The woman smiled, her previous skepticism fading. "I'm thinking about the old park by the river. Tons of memories there. It could represent our history and growth." "What about you?" "I want to include everyone's stories, create something inclusive," Sarah replied. "But how do we make sure this doesn't just fade away?" "Maybe we can put a little twist on it," she suggested. "A storytelling circle. Everyone who adds to the mural shares a personal story. That could bring depth." "That's a fantastic idea." Sarah beamed, her heart lifting. She started to envision how storytelling could weave each person's contribution into the mural, even more than just colors and brushstrokes. They exchanged ideas, and Sarah felt the pieces falling into place as creativity flowed. By the time they finished brainstorming, laughter and excitement were spilling over, melding like brushstrokes on a canvas. Soon, they regrouped, everyone full of promises and ideas that buzzed like summer bees. "Let us share what we've got," Sarah encouraged, her heart racing in tempo to their energy. One group shared their vision of a mural that depicted the changing seasons, reflecting resilience through the years. Another offered the tale of the bakery through whimsical pastries and childhood memories. Each story added a layer, deepening a bond that had been fragile only moments before. But just as their collective spirit soared, a pang of doubt whispered back. What if they all faded back into their routines as soon as the excitement of the moment waned? What if we create a community time capsule? Leo's innocent suggestion rang out among the others. We can include notes and photos, things that remind us why we started this project. Yes. Sarah cried out, her heart blooming with excitement. That's perfect. It'll anchor us, remind us of why we came together whenever we dig it up in the future. Shouts of agreement rippled across the gathering as they contemplated the project's deeper impact. A strong desire formed beyond just paint and celebration. It was about connection, legacy, and love for their shared foundation. "Let us include every name that contributes, too," suggested the tall woman, her voice bold with conviction. "So everyone knows they're a part of this history." The crowd erupted with enthusiasm. Each face shone with renewed determination. Sarah couldn't help but feel a warmth wash over her. They were side by side, not just as neighbors, but as a community united in a shared vision. Yet the question still loomed: what if that unity was put to the test? What if some voices were unheard or forgotten? Later that evening, as the sun disappeared behind the buildings, leaving streaks of orange and violet in the sky, Sarah gathered her thoughts. She had to find a way to keep the momentum going. As she walked home, whispering to herself the next steps, she knew she would devote herself to brewing this ambition. But she couldn't shake the worry that the desire to connect had to be reignited time after time. Could she ensure they didn't lose sight of the vibrant tapestry they were weaving together? With each step forward, the thrill of uncertainty wrapped around her. What more can I do? She wondered, gazing at the mural's empty wall as if it were already alive with color and stories. The energy of the community had sparked something in her, but what if there were deeper challenges waiting in the shadows? As she embraced the evening's cool air, the flicker of determination lit her path forward. Would she find the key to fostering connections, or risk losing the very thing they had built? The next morning dawned bright and crisp, the sky a clear blue canvas begging to be painted upon. Sarah stood by her window, a warm cup of coffee cradled in her palms, her thoughts swirling with yesterday's excitement. It felt like they stood at the edge of something profound, yet the fragility of their ambition lingered in the corners of her mind. Today is the day, she whispered to herself, each word a commitment. Driven by a vision greater than herself, she stepped out into the sun-drenched street, determined to ignite the spark that bound their group. As she walked, she envisioned their mural a burst of colors, intertwined stories, laughter and memories merging fluidly. Each brushstroke could tell a tale. She could already picture families standing by the wall, sharing smiles as they traced the vibrant lines with their fingers. Arriving at the park, she noticed a small gathering near the old oak tree. Curiosity drew her closer. A few familiar faces appeared: Leo, the woman with the park idea, and several eager newcomers. They were brainstorming, energy palpable as ideas bounced back and forth like a lively game of catch. "Hey Sarah!" Leo called out, his grin wide, the sketches in his hand fluttering in the breeze. "Join us. We're mapping out our mural's themes." Filling her with warmth, Sarah joined them, soon swept up in their infectious enthusiasm. They discussed colors and images, but as they painted with words, she realized they were also crafting a narrative, a history that lived between them. "Let us create a mural that not only tells our stories but also represents the future we want," the woman suggested. "A place for the next generation to add their voices." The idea sparked hope in Sarah's heart. This was it. They were not simply creating art, they were building a legacy. Yet, a subtle apprehension snaked through her. How do we keep everyone engaged? She wondered aloud. Just then, an elderly man approached, his weathered face full of wisdom. "Excuse me," he interjected softly, "I couldn't help but overhear. Your talk intrigues me. What if you reached out to the school nearby? The kids would love to contribute their visions." That simple suggestion turned a light bulb on in Sarah's mind. Yes. And we could invite families to come in and share their stories. She exclaimed, her voice rising with excitement. Ideas thrumming in her chest, she formulated a plan to engage schools, libraries, and local organizations to ensure everyone had a voice in their mural. As the day unfolded, new faces joined their circle, bringing with them stories and histories of their own. The park became a hub of connection, laughter echoing around the tree as children darted around chasing each other, families gathered to share snacks, and the air filled with the comforting scent of summer blooms. Yet amid this excitement, Sarah felt an ache for the woman who had doubted them before. She caught a glimpse of her standing to the side, contemplative. With a heart full of courage, Sarah approached her. "Would you want to help lead a storytelling workshop?" she asked gently. "Your insights could guide others to share their experiences." The woman hesitated, uncertainty mingling with fear, but after several moments, her nod came slow yet resolute. "I'd like that. I want this to be something we all share." Relief washed over Sarah, and their eyes met with a knowing glance. Their journey toward connection would not falter. As the sun began to dip again, painting the sky with pinks and purples, Sarah stood at the center of the gathering, feeling the warmth of hope's intertwining. "We are building something beautiful here," she said, her voice steady. "Let us make sure everyone's South story finds its place on our wall." The cheers echoed in the cooling air, but somewhere in the back of her mind, a tiny voice whispered the unthinkable: what if there were underlying rifts that this newfound connection couldn't mend? "There's still so much to do," she reasoned, heart pounding. But just as doubt crept in, the laughter of children and sounds of stories filled the park, reminding her that they were on the right path. As the last rays of sun faded away, Sarah wondered, could they truly weave together a tapestry of unity and shared dreams, or would hidden fears unravel it all? In the heart of Maplewood, the park buzzed with life, full of color and laughter. Sarah stood before the mural, an expanse of fresh, white canvas waiting for their stories to emerge. The memory of the old oak tree, whispers of doubt, and the struggles they had faced danced at the edges of her mind, but now the weight was a comforting one, like a reminder of how far she had come. "Today is the day we leave our mark," she declared, her voice riding the wave of enthusiasm from the crowd. Around her, families gathered, curiosity sparkling in their eyes. Children ran to grab brushes, while adults shared ideas, reminiscing about memories they wanted to immortalize on this wall. Sarah felt the heartbeat of the community synchronizing with hers. The two women who once stood skeptical now wore friendly smiles, speaking animatedly about their stories. One of them, the taller woman, had even stepped forward to share her childhood memories of the bakery and how the old recipes were a haven for families. The sun beamed down, lending warmth to the connections growing within the crowd. Sarah caught a glimpse of Leo, bouncing around and guiding kids on how to sponge paint, his laughter infectious. In that moment, alive with joy, Sarah felt a sense of purpose course through her that was richer than she'd ever expected. Yet right then, as she prepared to address the gathering about their mural, a knot of fear tightened in her stomach. What if this moment, this energy, dissipated into thin air after today? The thought cornered her, lighting a flicker of doubt, but she took a deep breath, steeling herself. "Before we start painting, let us remind ourselves why this matters," she began. "This mural is a symbol of our stories, our struggles, and our victories, but it's also a promise to one another to keep sharing, to keep caring. This can't just be a one-time celebration, we need this connection to last." A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd, and Sarah clasped her hands as she sensed the support. Igniting their hopes, she pressed on with a bold grin. "We should plan regular gatherings, maybe monthly art days, where everyone can add something to our mural, or share a new story, painting this wall together as our community grows and changes." Cheers erupted, the enthusiasm ringing through the park, a beautiful confirmation of what they were creating together. Even the two skeptical women nodded, their apprehension melting away, replaced by shared excitement. As they split into smaller groups, each focusing on sections of the mural, Sarah felt the atmosphere sizzle with creativity. Ideas flowed, paint dried vibrantly under the sun, and laughter echoed. Children dashed around, splattering colors as adults worked beside them, sharing memories and laughter in equal measure. But amid this creative tide, Sarah's apprehensive side whispered again. What if this beautiful moment wasn't enough to spark change? What if the connection they were building faltered over time? She knew change wasn't just about art, it was about nurturing a community that had always been there, yet so often felt distant. Suddenly, Leo ran up, arms covered in colorful paint, eyes wide with eagerness. "Miss Sarah! Look! We made a rainbow!" His excitement surged, a burst of chaos and happiness, and in that moment, she realized that maybe it was the small moments, like laughter and mess, that defined their progress. "That's the spirit, Leo!" She cheered back, seeking to encompass that youthful joy into the vision of their community mural. The late afternoon sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the park, igniting hues of gold and orange. As they painted, stories unfolded like flowers blossoming under the sun. Each person contributing, each brushstroke speaking of resilience and hope. As Sarah stepped back, her heart swelled with pride at their creation, a mural weaving together memories, colors vibrant against the backdrop of an enduring community. And yet, just like that, her earlier fears nudged at the corners of her mind. How would they ensure this sense of unity didn't fade? Once the mural was finished. As if reading her thoughts, Jake, who had been quietly painting beside her, turned with a knowing smile. "You know, Sarah, I think this mural won't just become a piece of art. It'll turn into a chapter in our story, an ongoing saga of this community." He paused, and his gaze turned almost serious. "If we keep this momentum going, it can transform lives. Just like how you're stepping into the light, so are all of us. People need to feel involved, it can lift them up." Tears pricked the corners of Sarah's eyes. You really think so? She felt a wave of gratitude because Jake had always believed in her, always seen the potential not just in her but in the collective power of their community. Absolutely, he said, placing a hand on her shoulder. Just remember, we're all building this together. Closing her eyes for a moment, Sarah embraced that truth. This mural wouldn't just symbolize celebration, it would be the cornerstone of a movement, a promise to stay connected. As dusk fell and lanterns twinkled to life around them, she formulated a plan. Let's allow this mural to breathe stories that call for more gatherings, more connections. Let us ensure this isn't just a masterpiece but a platform for growth, something that evolves. The simplicity of her words hung in the air like a spark ready to ignite passion. Chuckles mixed with cheers and agreement, the family spirit wrapped around them, grounding commitment into the hearts of everyone present. Later that night, surrounded by laughter, excitement, and cool evening breezes, Sarah smiled as she held Leo's hand, looking at the mural, a big splash of hope on an old wall. One step at a time, they had begun their journey toward lasting transformation. In that moment, she knew they could continue to cultivate that spirit of unity, and no doubt could snuff out this fire of connection they had built. Together, they would paint their future, holding one another accountable. Sarah breathed in deeply, feeling the joy that filled them all. This was just the beginning, and she felt ready for whatever came next. If they could embrace this moment, they would shine brighter than any doubt could ever cast. Then, out of nowhere, Leo jumped in delight. Miss Sarah. Can we make it sparkle? I think it should glow. He laughed, and that sound untethered joy was exactly what they needed. Yes. Let us make it shine, she echoed, and with hearts full of hope, they dove back into their work, knowing they were creating something that would light up Maplewood for years to come. Let us keep this momentum going, keep sharing stories, keep lifting each other. This was just the start of their incredible journey together. And just as Sarah thought about the horizon stretching out before them, beneath the night sky sparkling with stars, she let out a small chuckle. This city, their city, was about to transform into something extraordinary. Now, as you're reflecting on this heartwarming journey, listen closely. You need to subscribe immediately to not miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help this story thrive. I want to hear from you, so comment your reactions and feelings about the ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Let's spread the inspiration together.